You can practice tonight. I know. Don't you think that'd be good?
You are ready to go.
Okay. We're going to start. Welcome to City Council. We're glad you're here. We will begin with prayer or a thought by Councilmember Turk. And hey, if you council members will forgive me tonight, I'm going to forget your names because I'm in charge. So don't be offended when I forget you.
Not at all.
And those of you in the audience,
We'll
I'm
try and
not
help
doing the
you.
same thing. So, nice. So we'll go ahead and start with you, and then we'll stand and do the pledge of allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful for the opportunity which we have to come together this evening to discuss the needs and issues of our great city. We ask that as we meet today that Thy Spirit will be here and that we'll be able to have constructive conversations and do those things that are best for the people in this area and for this wonderful land. Father, we're grateful for the freedoms that we have in this country and for those heroes who paid the price for that freedom for us. We ask also that we may be blessed with rain in this country. Our farmers and ranchers are in great need, as is everyone, and the animals. We need rain, and we ask that we might be able to receive rain and have some relief from the heat and the drought. And Father, once again, we're grateful for all that Thou hast given us, for our opportunity to serve this great town. And these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And those of you that are here, you know that there's an agenda back on the credenza. And our friends from San Juan Counseling, we will move you up. As soon as we've done the approval of the consent agenda in minutes, then we'll go ahead and we'll have Courtney Flint present the well-being survey, and then we'll have you guys go, because then you are welcome to stay, because what we do is enthralling, but you can leave if you want to. So, have you all had a chance to look at the consent agenda in minutes? Anyone have any questions or concerns? If not, I would accept a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda minutes from July 2021.
I'll second it.
That's Turk and Bowers. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. I didn't see anything on the agenda that might have a conflict of interest, but if anyone does have an issue that might be a conflict of interest. And then, are there any members of the public that want to talk to us about something? We do have the public input spot here. Looks like you're from the public. Okay, so we will welcome Courtney Flint to share with us the Blanding City Wellbeing Survey. Thanks for being here.
That's great. It's great to be with you. I just need to be able to share my screen. Is there someone who can disable so I can share the screen? That would really be great. I can show you lots of pretty pictures. At least graphic.
Wow. We're going to go to participants, I believe. Let's put it off to the left. And off the side of her somewhere, there should be a co-host. Yeah, I think it's going to make her a co-host. Looks like you're a co-host.
That's great. Together we can rule the world, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, great. Let's get this up and running, and then we'll be off. Okay, can you see the slides okay and hear me?
Yep, we seem great.
Okay, that's great. Well, I'm Courtney Flint. I'm a professor of sociology, both in natural resources and community sociology up at Utah State. I'm also a community resource specialist for USU Extension. And I'm just so pleased to have had Blanding as a partner on this Utah Wellbeing Survey project this year. I'm going to share just 10 to 15 minutes of findings with you, answer a few questions, and then I'll let you get back to your business. But thanks so much for having me. I sure wish I could be there in person, and I will get down there to meet with you at some point, I promise. So this year we had 29 cities that participated and had survey data that was sufficient for analysis. But we've had other communities involved in past years. You can see that we worked pretty statewide on this. We were super glad to add Blanding here to the project. We've got folks from north to south and east to west, and it's been an interesting project. The goal of this project really is primarily to provide Utah City leaders with information on the well-being and the perspectives of their residents, and to inform the planning processes and decision-making. It has secondary research purposes. We're interested in understanding well-being across the board, but it has this primary purpose that's really for you. We keep this at no cost to the cities, and so that we can do this as an extension project, at least to date. You can find the report for Blanding and all the other cities on the website of the Wellbeing Project. It's down here below, but really if you just Google USU Utah Wellbeing Project, it should pop up as an option for you. And then you can scroll down and get to all the cities and click on Blanding, and you can see the full report there. There's a statewide report there, and we will be continuing to put out different kinds of reports related to the data. So, yeah. Sorry?
We'll put this on our website as well.
Oh, perfect. That's great. Sorry, it's just a bit hard to hear you. Okay, so in Blanding, we did this survey in February, earlier this year, and it was a partnership with Blanding City. Y'all helped out a lot and got the word out through social media and websites and other things, and we got 282 surveys that were viable back from Blanding City residents, and that's a really great number for a city of this size. In terms of the demographics, about 79% were full-time residents of Blanding. Just a couple were part-time residents, and then about 20% that were from the surrounding area. The average length of residence was about 24 years, but it ranged from 0 to 71. And about 17% had lived in Blanding for 5 years or less, meaning that most of the respondents had been around the city for a while. And 80% were from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we have no comparison for that in the census, but you all can let us know if you think that that fits your sense of the city, or if we might have been skewed a little bit on that. We try to be real transparent with who we hear from and who we don't. The survey underrepresents those youngest adults and the oldest adults. We underrepresented males. We got a lot more females than males. We are underrepresenting those that don't have a college degree, those of lower incomes, the Hispanics and Latinos and the non-whites, and those that aren't married. So there's a couple of places where the data are a little skewed, and we'll continue to work with the data to try to do some weighting over time. But for now, that the survey analysis is all based on unweighted data. So let's dive right into the findings. You know, personal well-being in Blanding came in at an average of a 3.88 on a 1 to 5 scale. 71% said 4 or 5. That's pretty much good or excellent. So that's really something to feel good about. And remember that we were doing this survey, right, sort of still in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And it was done at that time by design, because many of our other cities had been involved in early 2020. And this was a chance to gather data on how things were changing as a result of the pandemic. The idea is to come back in a year or two, whenever you're ready and willing, we can come back in and hopefully we see a bit of a rebound in some of these well-being scores. But how does Blanding compare to other cities in the project? We break everybody out by the different clusters of cities that the Utah League of Cities and Towns has. And so we put Blanding down here in the rural hub, resort and traditional rural communities. And Blanding was right near the average. The average for the rural communities was a 3.94, I think, on personal well-being. So it's really quite close. right there sort of in the middle. And really most of the communities were clustered there right around that average of right near a 4 out of 5. So Utah's well-being is really doing quite well, all things considered. We also asked about community well-being in Blanding, and the numbers come down a little bit on that. About almost 50% said 4 or 5 out of 5, but this is not unusual. You can see that the scores shift and spread out a lot more when we look at community well-being, but still Blanding was right there near the average for the rural communities, which I think was about a 3.52. So right in there with the average with other folks. So we also asked folks to rate 10 different categories of well-being, and then also tell us how important those categories were to their well-being. And we represent this in this matrix graph. So you can see the ratings up along here on the side and the importance along the bottom. Now, how to read that for you guys. So the highest rated domain of all was safety and security. People feel safe and secure in Blanding, Utah. That's fantastic. The most important domains were also safety, and security, also mental health and physical health, very important to folks. Living standards too, and connection with nature not far behind. What we do is we look at this red zone down here to tell us what might be sort of the action arena, or where might we want to put some attention, because the things that are in this red zone are categories or domains of well-being that are important to people, but they're rated a little lower than average. And mental health and physical health fell into this red zone. Well-being doesn't just vary across communities, it varies within communities too. So we look at the demographic characteristics, and in Blanding, a couple of things stood out. There are a couple other factors too here and there, but the more dominant findings are that BNLDS led to some higher well-being scores across the categories and also overall. And then those who were female were more likely to say that education, mental health, and social connections were more important to them. So that's some of the things about the well-being categories. Of course, we were in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and we asked folks if their personal well-being had changed over the last year. And for 49% of folks in Blanding, they said it had declined, at least slightly, and for some substantially. When we asked if the overall well-being in the community had changed in the last year, we saw a few more saying that community well-being had declined, and that was for about 58% of folks. Well, what was declining for folks? If we kind of look into it a little bit more, we asked folks if any of these categories had been affected by the pandemic, and the top 3, and this is not just unique to Blanding, but this was for just about for every city in the survey. Social connections were the most affected, followed by either mental health or cultural opportunities. And I think that's kind of interesting because physical health, this was a physical pandemic as a virus, and yet we found these kind of restrictions on our lives were found to have an influence on people's well-being over the course of the year. And a couple of the demographics, personal well-being was more likely to decline for the older groups in Blanding. That wasn't always the case in other communities, but it was for Blanding. And physical health was more likely to decline for those who were not of the dominant religion, not of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And social connections were more likely to decline for female respondents than male respondents. So a couple of the things we look at here in the survey, we look at how connected people feel to their community. And you can see here across the cities that Blanding is number 2, right up there with Helper and Delta and Nephi. Really, people really do feel quite connected to Blanding. So very strong finding there. And overall, we see the community connection, or that feeling of belonging, strongly correlated with feelings of well-being. So in Blanding, those who had felt more connected to their community, to Blanding, had higher levels of well-being. And so that's been an interesting finding really across the states, but particularly strong in Blanding. Just a couple more things we talked about. As folks look to the future of Blanding, how much of a concern are the following things? And you can see here for Blanding, over 75% of folks said things like water supply, opportunities for youth, affordable housing, access to public land, employment opportunities, and access to quality food were major or moderate concerns for the future. But that doesn't discount the rest of these concerns on here, and everything except for air quality. We had over 50% of the respondents indicating that they had at least some concern for these issues. And this is something that the city might be able to use to track over time to see if these concerns are being abated, or we could dive in further to find out what it is about these issues that are a concern. I'd be happy to work with you on future surveys if you're interested. We ask about population and economic growth. We ask folks to say how they feel population growth is in Blanding, and we had 57%, the majority said, well, it's just right. And a few said too slow, but not too many said too fast. But when we look at economic development in Blanding, we had just over half of the respondents say it's a little too slow. But we did have 33% that said that it was just right. So not too much dissatisfaction there, but a couple of folks wouldn't mind a little more economic development in Blanding. We ask about different landscape features. And so you can see here that the natural features are overwhelmingly important to folks. Their well-being is improved. It's a positive impact. And even when you add in some of the more development industry factors, it's still quite positive or maybe a little bit more neutral, but certainly not particularly negative. And that is in sharp contrast to many of the more urban places, say up on the Wasatch Front. So Blanding folks are pretty content with any of these things that are in their landscape. We gave an opportunity for folks to just comment openly on well-being in Blanding, and we got 28% of the respondents left some sort of an open comment there, which is really quite high. People clearly care about things and are willing to express their opinion. Some of the negative concerns that we heard, probably things you're certainly aware of, and that's the need for more employment and economic opportunities and growth. The housing market is a concern. That certainly seems to be a concern statewide. People would like a few more recreation opportunities, more shopping and dining options. They felt the impacts of the service and tourism industry, I think related to COVID in particular. Some concerns about racism against Native Americans. Lots of folks really wanting to honor the rural lifestyles and values and the decision-making for the city and the area. And a couple people said they'd really love a racquetball court. We thought we'd get that in there. But, overall, we also asked, what do you value about Blanding? And with so many comments in this open comment area, heard from so many people that they feel like there's a great sense of connectedness to this community and that they like the small town feel. It's friendly. They like the connections with nature. It's quiet and peaceful. They feel safe. They like the abundant recreation and the good schools and the good government that you all provide. So all in all, we had lots of positive comments in the open comments about community values. So there's more findings in the report online. I know you have a busy agenda. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I am really just so pleased to be able to present these data to you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And again, I would like to come down and meet with you because another announcement, looks like we're getting a great big grant to look at just sustainability issues and community well-being throughout the Intermountain West. Is big focus on the San Juan River watershed, and as also the Pacific Northwest and in Colorado. So all of a sudden, we're going to have some tremendous opportunities. We hope to work with you on a new 5-year project and connect some of the dots there moving forward. So I'll be back in touch with those details once the award from the federal government is finalized, and maybe we can see where we might go with that. So with that, I'll be quiet now for a minute and see what you think.
Courtney and I actually worked together before, and especially having USU here, thought this would be very fitting and helpful for our community as we look to the future, not only for our social and mental health well-being, but as you can see, there's other factors and indicators which play into the mental health and some of the economic development factors, growth, housing, all that kind of stuff. So we're looking forward to doing this each year, and this other project that she's talking about, I think, will be really awesome. So,
how do we get people to participate in things like this other than social media? Because then we get the same people. We're essentially going to get their answers and things.
So I have some ideas that I'm actually going to talk about tonight with that app that we
you're talking about, but there are some other avenues that potentially we could do.
Yeah.
We could even do something with utility bills and things like that.
I think that that's more across the board because people that don't use social media might not use apps.
Yeah, agreed.
So we're still in that same
Right.
area of not reaching a demographic we want to reach.
Right.
Okay.
That's an important concern, particularly in rural communities. And some folks have made computers available at a library or at a school to enable people to come on board and take it. We can also provide paper copies in the future and a Dropbox at your city office, and folks could do it on paper if we want to keep the costs down. Of course, if the sky's the limit, we have tons of money, we can always do a mail survey, but that costs a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that would probably be a good option. I mean, you mentioned the library, perhaps we could coordinate with the county library that's here in town to maybe advertise, go to the library to take this survey or things like that. So.
And we can also ask any specific questions to Blanding. So over the course of the next few months and a year, you think about if there's any additional questions you might like to add over Blanding specifically, and we can do that in the future.
That is great.
Logan will be bothering you apparently. He's got tons.
That information was excellent. That was very good. I appreciated that. Most of it wasn't surprising. I think
No,
most
it's
of it
stuff we
was
know. Like it's
right kind of
there.
where we thought it would be, but, or just, just as a city council member, but there was a few things that were. So that was great. I'd love to keep participating in that.
Wonderful.
Great. And I will also just say before I go that some communities are kind of trying to use some of these findings, especially on COVID, to think about their American Rescue Fund planning for how to spend some of those funds. And if I need to help dig in on some of these data a little further, I'd be happy to help you out.
Sounds good.
That was great. Thank you so much for presenting that to us.
You bet. Well, thanks so much. And David, be sure and get in touch with me if there's anything more I can do.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Now it's Tammy and Brandy's turn. Will you guys come up? Are you just here supporting as she's talking, or are you backup?
Nice. Tammy's my backup.
It's like tag team.
Right? She's here to keep me under control.
Good luck.
Right? She's been trying for a while. Ryan really tried too, and we saw how that went down. Oh, I'm teasing. So yeah, I'm Tammy Squires. I'm the executive director at San Juan Counseling, and I've got Brandy Sieberts with me. She has taken over Ryan's position. She's the clinical director for us. So if you haven't met Brandy before, she's just amazing at what she does, and she does pretty good at keeping me in line. So I just wanted to come and present to you guys and talk to you guys about what we're doing. I tell you, I've been the executive director for almost 7 years. I've never presented to any city council. And I'd be willing to bet the 2 previous directors before me didn't come present to you guys either. So I think this is a good practice to get going and to kind of let you guys know what we're offering and what we have. And maybe it's another way to let the community know what we have going on. So we do a lot of services, and I know you guys are busy. Your agenda is packed, so I'm going to go over things really quickly. You guys all have my email and my phone number. I have a bunch of pamphlets I brought. I will stay through the whole thing so you guys can talk to me afterwards too. I just don't want to take up too much of your time. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is our MCOT. It's a new service that we started about 8 months ago. It's a mobile crisis outreach team. We got a lot of funding from the state division to provide this service. And what it is it's a crisis team that goes out. It's a team, so 2 people go out and they can respond to homes. They can respond with law enforcement officers. They can go to jails, the hospitals. And it's really, it's an individual defined crisis. So we work with UNI, is who the crisis line is for Utah. People call the UNI line. It's the 1-800-273, whatever it is. I can't even remember it, but it's the mental health crisis number. It's a nationwide number. We've been promoting the 801 number because the problem that we get in San Juan County is not everybody has a 435 or 801 area code on their cell phone. And if they have like a 970 cell phone and they call that 1-800 national line, then they'll get routed to Arizona or Colorado. So we've been promoting the 801 number for this, and that is how people would get a hold of us, individuals. Law enforcement in jails and hospitals, they have our direct number that they call, and since we started in November, we've actually responded quite a bit with the law enforcement officers, both the local city police and the San Juan County Sheriff's. And we respond pretty much countywide. It's a big county, and because it's mobile crisis, we can't respond to every area, because by the time we get out there 3 hours later, the crisis is over with. But we will respond through telemedicine or things like that if we need to.
Is the council familiar with what UNI is?
So UNI is the University of Utah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what Brandy said. It's the crisis line that if somebody calls in that, like I said, that prevention line, that's who they get. And they route all of the calls for all of Utah.
They also do inpatient things on one.
So that's like the state mental hospital, right?
No,
It's not the same thing.
no, that's not the same thing. So it's different. It's run by the University of Utah, and it's just like a big call center. And they also do a few things out of their call center. They have a warm line too. So if somebody's not in a crisis, but they just need to talk to somebody, they can call that warm line too.
Warm, like warm and fuzzy?
Warm as in it's peer support, so someone with lived
Okay.
experience
Okay,
versus the crisis line would be licensed therapists responding.
okay. Interesting.
So, yeah. A law was passed a couple years ago. Donald Trump signed it into law that there would be a 3-digit emergency number for mental health crises, just like 911. It's going to be 988, but it's not working yet.
So don't call.
So I haven't tried it.
Going.
It's going to be working. I know the legislature was working on, they were putting bills in to get it going for next year. They're still not sure how they're going to fund it, but that 988 number I'm assuming will go to UNI instead of the 1-800. But it'll be a great thing. It's an easy thing. It's like I tell you, I can't remember the 1-800 number, and I've heard it a million
Say if
times.
you're in
but-
crisis, you don't remember a big long number.
Right? Yeah. So the 988. And then the crisis line is also pretty well attached to the Safe UT app. And hopefully all of you guys that have kids, you know about it. Your kids know about it. The school's really promoting it. It's a good resource. But if people are really struggling with that in a roundabout way, it can get back to us in crisis situations too, and our MCOT team can respond to that. Am I telling the truth?
Yes, absolutely. And teenagers like the safety app in particular because it's anonymous and it has a text option. So some teens don't want to have to talk to someone who's socially awkward perhaps, but they can have a text conversation with a crisis worker.
Yeah. It's been a really good thing, and the popularity is just, it keeps going, and it's getting used more and more, and I think it's a really good thing. Any additional resources that we can have for you is a really good thing. Did I cover everything for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. I did want to touch on school-based services. Over the last couple of years, we've had therapists in the schools throughout San Juan County. When COVID happened and everything got shut down, we had to pull our therapists out of the schools, but when they opened back up here, we were able to put a couple therapists back in the schools. So we're trying to reach those kids
So
that
they're
are,
all the schools?
not in Blanding Elementary.
Don't say I don't understand that.
Yeah, a couple years ago, we had a therapist in Blanding Elementary, and it's just a matter of,
I think there's a need there,
we were having real space issues.
right?
That school has no space.
Yeah, we were having therapists do counseling and being interrupted, and it just wasn't working out.
Okay.
So I've been working with Trevor and seeing what we can do there. But, so just so you know, we are in the local schools, trying to do what we can there. prevention services, our prevention program is a pretty big thing. You guys have probably all heard of SJCPAC. SJCPAC is a subsidiary of San Juan Counseling. Our prevention specialist, Elaine Mitchell, is the one that runs that. They have a lot of efforts going on constantly. And I told her I was coming to present, and she just kept bringing me all this stuff. Tell them about this, tell them about that, tell them about that. And maybe I'll have Elaine come present sometime, because she does a lot of stuff, and she knows it a lot better than I do. There is a website that covers all of their campaigns that they are doing. It's sjcpac.com. So SJCPAC stands for San Juan County Prevention, Action, and Collaboration. I think that's it, right?
If you,
Used to be coalition now.
That's collaboration.
if you want to send me some of that, then we can just put it on the website with some of the other resources that we have available.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a really good idea. So she's been doing a lot of things. I know she helped you guys a lot with the fall festival to get that going. And they're getting ready to work on community events for next year too. So I'm sure she'll be, either her or through Trevor at the school district will be coming and talking to you guys about that. They'll have a float on the 4th of July, throwing out a lot of good stuff. But if you guys do have a few minutes, have you seen the kindness campaign? Kids have been wearing Kindness Matters shirts. They've been doing a campaign like that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I think they're just getting that one going. And then the next one that they're doing, they're really involving the youth into these prevention efforts. And so they've been going for a couple of years, these youth coalitions in the different schools. And I'll just show you this so you can get a visual. If you see this logo, and you'll see kids wearing this, doing the different activities, this is the youth coalition logo. And they're doing things like they're going up to the Capitol, they're doing all sorts of training, they're working with Hope Squads in the schools. And so they're doing all sorts of prevention efforts. We're not just talking substance use prevention, but it's also suicide prevention. One of the things that SJCPAC, they look at the SHARP surveys that goes out in the school, and they drive their data off of that. And so they're working on building family nights. That's one of the things they worked on this last year. And so they were sending out games to kids in the high school and different things like that. So if you have some time, go look at that sjcpac.com and look at the different campaigns that they have going on. They have a lot of things going on right now.
And that sharp data is actually really valuable too. I don't know if you've heard of that or been able to see that, but that's really valuable too.
Mm-hmm. And a big thing that Elaine did over the last couple of years, the Navajo Nation was not allowing us to provide the SHARPS survey into the South schools. And she was able to go talk to the different communities, and they were able to get an MOU with the Navajo Nation, and they finally started doing the surveys in the southern schools. So now we're going to finally start getting data that is countywide. So the next thing to talk about is we do substance use disorder treatment. We have a very strong drug court program. I think I'll have you guys know we had a really rough year. We lost our primary drug court therapist and our peer support specialist last year. And so we've kind of been rebuilding that from scratch. And it's a really vibrant program right now. We hired a new peer support specialist, and he's been amazing. And so we've got a really good, solid drug court program going on right now. And so those are the big things that I wanted to touch on. We provide mental health outpatient treatment, as you guys all probably know, and that's really our biggest thing that we do, but it kind of gets just the same thing that we've always done, so it kind of doesn't get highlighted as much as it should, but we've got a good group of therapists right now, and they're trained in a lot of good modalities. So I'm really proud of what we've done over the last couple of years. Like I said, it's been a couple hard years. We've lost some staff, and we're working on getting in more staff, but it's a hard time to hire any mental health therapist at this time. But so if you guys know any good therapists that want jobs, send them our way.
I'll call them right now.
So do you guys have, I know that was super quick and I probably just vomited way too much information at you. Did you guys have any questions in the group right now?
I don't have questions, I mean, you guys do a lot more than you've said, and you've said that, but I've dug into this and I've met with you even, and they just do so much. It's hard to get it all out there, even like, because there's no ways to get it all out there, so they do a lot.
Well, and it's a hard thing, and it's one of those things that I realize I'm probably the weakest at, and I bet you any local mental health authority will say that we're bad at marketing. Because we're government agencies, and it's not like we have a marketing budget.
Right.
So, we've started a Facebook page, we've got a website. We're trying to get any community help out
How
there.
often
that
you're
we
so
can.
busy taking care of doing everything, that telling people that you're doing everything is hard to do sometimes.
Well, if there's things like, at the 4th of July celebration, now we're doing the information boost. We wanted to do a booth there. That's possible for you to hold something like that. It might be short notice right now for this year, but there's things like that that I think between the city, the school district, and what you guys are doing can help work together to get more information out to communities.
Yeah, that'd be great. And listening to her presentation, and she offered up to delve deeper into some of those things. I'd love to hear more about the mental health access issue and things like that. What are the barriers that people are really finding? That's what I'd like to hear, because I don't think people are being honest with me with what the barriers are, and I'd love to be able to eliminate as many of those as I can.
A lot of times it's just the stigma of going to a therapist.
And I tell you, one of the reasons why I really pushed the building that we're in, the combined building with the clinic and public health, is I wanted people to be able to park outside of my building and not feel embarrassed that they were parking outside of my building.
Which is sad, that we're at that point, like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, none of us have an issue going to the doctor, like, it doesn't matter if we go to the doctor, but people feel like if they're going to see someone to talk about how they feel versus like what's actually going on, then that's a problem. I think that we can do better.
I agree. I think the stigma is getting better. I look at when I started 20 years ago to how it is now. I think it's getting better, but man, it's been a slow turnaround for the little bit that it's gained.
Do you have any American Indian providers?
As far as therapists, we don't. Well, we've got an intern, and we have several case managers and one of our crisis workers.
And do you offer the non-Western therapy, like the more traditional, or not?
So, no, because we have to live under Medicaid rules, and we have to follow the evidence-based practices that are there to cover what
They do it UNHS.
they do at NHS.
And then, is it just one, or do they have a few there? Do they have a couple?
Yeah, I don't
I feel
know.
like there's at least
But sometimes that's a barrier too.
two. It is, yeah.
And are you still practicing, or have we lost you to being
Yeah, you
lost?
lost me. I got taken in referral.
That's bad.
Thank you.
It's good and bad, because you are amazing,
Appreciate that.
but it's too bad that you're a boss lady now.
I know, if I could just clone Brandy, my problems would be solved.
Over and over.
Right. She doesn't want to work 80 hours a week though, so weird. I don't want her to either. I don't want to burn her out.
Well, and Logan's been concerned, he's been bringing up the concern of mental health issues, especially through the COVID situation. So I think even getting here and sharing the information, because to be honest with you, I've worked with your facility a lot, and you have amazing people there, and you do amazing things, and even I forget about it sometimes, but hey, that's a resource that we need to make sure that we're sharing with others, or if we have a need that we're using. So I love that you came here and presented that. That was great.
Well, and talking about the COVID situation too, we, like everybody else, had to shut down and we had to reevaluate how we were providing services. We immediately went into telemedicine mode. And so we started providing all sorts of telemedicine, and we're still able to do it. It's kind of kept going. So if that's kind of a barrier, I'd like to know if it's a barrier of sometimes
It was high on the survey, an issue high on the survey, so maybe we should look into it, because you knew it would be, or I thought it would be, but it's interesting to see that it's that high on our survey.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think we complicate it too much. Like, for me especially, like I knew of resources, and I know that there's lots more resources, but I guess it felt too complicated to think that this one place would maybe have the answer for possibly everything I needed. Like that in and of itself, I think is complicated.
I do think there's concerns with people who wonder if you're staffed enough, if they can get in, can they see a provider, can they see the right provider? That's concerns that I've heard in the community,
right.
that are probably valid and that you're working through.
And we're working through them, and we're a small agency, we're a small community. We will never be able to solve 100% of the issues, and we're doing the best that we can. But right now, we've got room.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
We're not turning anybody away. We're not putting people on waiting lists.
And from everything I've seen, everyone that does any sort of mental health or any kind of treatment that way work together. Like, they're all separate in a way, but I don't think that there's any issues referring to back and forth or,
Correct.
you know, I can't do this, but this person can. Like, I've seen that across the board, that they've all been fairly good at, I mean, this is the problem and these are the resources. So that's good.
And that's the question I have is, how big of a priority is it for you to get into the elementary school? You know, what do we do to make that happen? Because there is a need. And as my career's gone on, I've seen the need increase. And I'm not telling you something you don't know.
Right.
But what do we do in order to make room?
Build a new school.
That's not gonna happen.
What's the program Shelby runs down the road?
Yeah, Shelby does different things like the divorce type groups and grief type things.
But it's not mental health.
It's not mental health.
Right. I would say it's about a middle of the road priority, and I'll be completely honest right now, as the schools down south are opening,
Right.
that's kind of becoming more of my priority, because I think there's just gonna be such a need down there. But if I could get fully staffed, I could send
But
somebody
you do
there.
have people at the ARL and San Juan High School.
Which is much appreciated. Yeah, I think it's huge.
And it's something that, I mean, we're always looking at it. Randy and I meet with Trevor monthly
Right.
to talk about the needs and where we can best put our resources. But the elementary school, honestly, the biggest reason why we didn't push it was when we had somebody there, it was kind of a mess. I mean, Brandy could tell
I
you.
can speak from personal experience, it would matter if you being situated in a closet or in a classroom, that midway through the session would be interrupted by the class that needed to use it.
Yeah, no privacy at all. Right. Yeah, so it didn't feel conducive to treatment anyways. So,
School district issue.
and Trevor is working on it.
There's someone from the school district right now.
I think there is.
I mean, if we were to talk about like what special ed does, we have the same issue. We're doing, you know, some of the same type of services that should be private in a lunchroom. Because there's not.
You know, I'm not a therapist, but I just think, you know, all these kids do have issues, and if we catch them when they're.
Yeah, it's all about early intervention, I agree.
So,
And it's not to say we don't have therapists available to see them at our office.
Right.
Yeah, so if they, you know, if a parent can transport them to the office,
Usually
we've got
do-
plenty of
yeah.
availability, yes, yes.
Because we do see people of
And
all
did the
ages.
schools give like vouchers or something to parents so they could?
They'll only pay for if it's in the school. And maybe that's something we ought to talk to Trevor about. Well, yeah, maybe it's something we need to talk to
Anyways,
Trevor about.
I just think that early intervention, you get that stuff always. In the early stages. But no, I appreciate what you're doing. Very informative. Thanks.
Thank you. Like I said, I'll stick around, right? Because this is just exciting stuff. I mean, I don't have my contact information now, so.
Yeah, we're gonna be emailing you all the time.
I look forward to it. Thank you guys for your time and for your
Thanks for
support.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go to reports, and since I'm the pretend mayor tonight, I don't have anything. Does anyone on city council have anything they wanted to share?
Just, I mean, the only thing I have is that there might be some opportunities in the near future of meeting with the governor's office or the lieutenant governor's office here in Blanding. So if anybody has things that they want to discuss with them, I think we maybe start thinking of those.
And on that kind of stuff, we always get held up on the corn idea, you know, not all of us can go to those meetings.
Right, yeah, but if they come to us and we have things to talk about, they're coming to us.
That's all of us
going
can-
to them.
Correct.
That's why I'm just.
If we invited them to come down to meet with us, and it was our meeting, then it would be technically in violation of open meeting, or we'd have to notify it, so.
The only caveat is as long as city business
Is it-
decisions or consent is being made.
But they're talking about other issues.
Yeah.
They're informing us,
Just
they're
that-
expressing consent.
There's a couple of things that I think that they might be coming down for, so if we get the opportunity to talk, we might want to have somebody to talk to them about. And it's not as a group necessarily, more maybe individually, but
I would like to, if they're coming and you know.
I'll always let you know when they come if I hear of anything. I'm trying to set up just the other piece of that is I'm trying to set up with the, Abby Cox, Utah's first lady, with her initiative, her Show Up initiative. I'm trying to set up a thing with the schools so she can come down and present that to the schools when school starts this fall. That might be one of them, but we don't have to take that. So.
Good. Anyone else? Okay, finance report, is that you?
Well, I've got a couple things, administration,
Okay.
reports. Most of them, the updated status in that table that we've created now. And I won't walk through all those because you have them there in front of you. But, one thing that's great news, I had insurance come down, reevaluate our buildings. We've already received about $66,000 in insurance claims from the hailstorm last summer. And when we had them reevaluated, they found at least an additional $60,000 worth of damage. So for example, the roof and all the siding at the building on the baseball facility all needs to be replaced and will be covered by insurance. Roof at the terminal building at the airport, and several solar panels on the wellness center, things like that. So that was great news. I was glad to have them come down and reevaluate and look at some things that hadn't been looked at initially. So that's one good thing. Then the other thing that I'll be real quick, I wanted to tell you, so with my background in PR, I've been approached by from every type of developer wanting to create some sort of city app. And city apps, the issues always are not creating public clamor like social media does. Record keeping is a big issue, and not creating more work where you post something in this app and you have to post it on social media and post it on your website, having it centralized. And this app actually is a BYU student who put it together, and he covered all the bases. I even asked him, could you incorporate our, let's make sure. I asked him, could you incorporate our express bill pay so people can just, tap on Express Bill Pay in the app, and it'll pull up, they can log in there, pay their bill or whatever through the app, even though it just pulls up the website. And they actually have integrated that as well. So this is just a quick little promo video to give you an idea. You can tell about, it can list all of our recreation when signups are ready, when events are going on, Express Bill Pay, a variety of things.
Whether you're a school, a business, or even a city, getting everyone in your community on the same page is never easy. But with Polly, it can be. It's a simple platform that lets people know what's going on with their organization. There's analytics for improved administrative decision-making. Just create an event. Rather, it's a virtual event or physical event. And right away, your team will know about it. No emails, no flyers, just an organized feed of everything happening at work or just down the block. By consolidating all your events onto one app, everyone can keep track of everything going on, whether it's a single or recurring event. And you and your organization benefit too. Your information gets noticed, and you won't have to compete with the clutter of social media and other communication platforms. With better, easier communication, your community can become a more inclusive and informed place for all. Polly, contact us to get started. And finally say goodbye to those ignored email blasts.
So the nice thing is that when we post something on here, it'll automatically feed in our social media. It just integrates everything, makes things a lot simpler. And because the guy that started the business, he's approached Utah cities first. He's actually giving us quite a silver deal for $1,200 for the whole year to use the platform, which is really not a lot. It's definitely within our budget to be able to handle that. And he's willing to lock in that price for the next 5 years for us. We'll see how it goes the first year, if we like it. If we don't like it, then we can just pull out and be done with it. But I think it'd be a great tool.
This is an app to get like on your own phone.
Yeah, you just
Does
download
it
it.
cost?
No, it costs nothing.
Doesn't cost anything.
And the benefit of this app is, unlike some other city apps, this one, say someone is using this app in another city and they move to town or vice versa. Or say you're just on vacation and you're in another city that uses the app too. You can look it up and see what's going on in that community as well. And you can create, if you saw there were little icons like recreation sports, you can determine what goes into your feed. If you're interested in what sports are coming up for kids, or if you don't have kids and you just want to know what's going on with city council, has a variety of things. So honestly, I turned away dozens of these types of things, and this is the first one that I even gave the time of day of, and I've been really impressed. Simple, easy, doesn't create more work. If anything, it helps minimize work for staff. So anyways, that's more of just a FYI of something that we were looking at. I think would be beneficial.
That's
it, yep.
And I just need to say that I'm really excited that the lights and signs for Crosswalk and 100 are ordered.
You got it.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's great.
Terry, when he had that done, he's like your superhero. You can
pretty
call him T-Bone if you want. That's what he likes. When he gets the job done, it's T-Bone.
He might beat you up later.
Let's save it, see if we actually get them here in time before school starts.
I just think it's awesome that they're ordered and that we were able to move forward with hopefully something that helps with safety. So that's so great. All right, finance report. Are we not doing it tonight?
Well, just are there any specific questions? And if there are, I can take those back to Kim if I can answer them myself. So
I think she always does a good job of when things are really weird, putting
she does the
notes
little
up to the
notes on
side
the
so you
side.
understand what it is.
For the most part, it should be pretty self-explanatory. If there's specific questions, you can dive into that.
Are you good?
I have no questions.
David, tonight apparently you're Terry Ecker, according to our thing. So Terry, are you giving us the record report?
Well,
According to us, you are.
We're gonna get rid of all sports. And we're gonna go to motocross.
All right.
And racquetball court.
And racquetball, apparently.
No, that might be.
Was that kind of a getting back at me for razzing Terry?
It's on the
I know.
But yeah, well then.
While you're thinking about any questions you may have about the report, I just thought I'd let you know that the trust that insures the city The last few years, they've hired the Red Cross to come down 4 times a summer, train staff, assess where we're at, grade us, so we know where our staff is. So they do that in-house now, and it's way more in-depth because they don't want lawsuits, and so they've been, training us up, making sure we're good, and just so that you know, we got a report back on Monday, and our staff, as far as all of the life-saving principles and CPR and all that stuff, have tested higher than any other place in Utah.
That's awesome.
Some of the other things, not so much, but it's just little things that have never been asked for before, so easy things to rectify. But my staff doesn't know that yet. I'm going to their staff meeting in the morning with some donuts and things, of course, to thank them and let them know they need to hear it, because also here's that stuff, So I just thought I'd throw that out there, but that's pretty good. And that's 100% thanks to Linda and Kate, who do the training of our guards, and so, yeah, they deserve big credit, so.
Good. Can you tell me what you're doing to conserve water at parks? Because that's something people don't have.
So we're able to program all of our things as to 50% less water and by a percentage. And so that's what he's doing. However, leading up to the 4th of July, especially in Centennial Park, we need it strong before it takes the abuse that it does on the 4th. And so right after we do that first watering after the 4th, we'll be able to dramatically cut that down too. But it wouldn't be able to stand not having, you guys have all seen the abuse it takes down here during the 4th. So in the other parks, things have been reduced quite a bit, but Centennial, it has been reduced, but not as much as the others. Because we're just holding on to get to the 4th.
There's Brian that does the water. So I don't know how much that may be fixed, right? But the one in the park here was shooting at the road the other night.
Oh, we got some emails about that in Central Park, this one right here.
Yeah.
So people are really good about letting us know. People that go on these early morning or late night walks and stuff, there's quite a few of them. They're our best eyes because we're not out there when they're on because of the hours that we.
I got a text at 4:14 one morning.
That's what I was about to say.
So I got that same email from the same person. So
Oh my goodness.
I don't doubt it. I get a lot of those too, so I turn my notifications on at least till 7 a.m. But
Yes, the people are watching.
yeah, they are. But we work for all of them, right? So
Well, we were just talking about that this morning in the staff meeting. Once 4th of July is done, at Centennial, reducing everything.
Yeah.
Is there like some state guidelines on teaching and things like that? I mean, I was up north today and everything is so dead up there.
On
Like,
teaching?
they're teaching, like educating people on like,
Yes, so there are some resources.
Yeah,
so like we're significantly greener down here than up there, which like I know we don't have more water. I just think we're thinking we might have more water.
Yes, so that's one of the things,
Wait,
there's
all of
been
the
some
ones that
links
are-
that I've received recently. We're gonna start pushing some things out about that. Kind of on a similar note, sorry to take away from that, but Kim just met with Jake Powell from USU up north, and they'll be doing the frontier in City Hall to redo that. And because the funding was extended to October, so it's likely gonna happen in September. But we'll have to provide the manpower, so we staff, but it would be nice to maybe actually get some volunteer manpower.
Brad's been bored of it, so he's.
Yeah, Brett likes that.
See if he was listening.
He is now.
Other than
What is
that,
your software company's solution for how they have let you down repeatedly?
the way they've let us down is that it's internet-based, and Frontier is not providing proper services and never has. I gotta be careful
So it's
what I
not
say
your
right now, but
software,
it's not our software. Our software is great, but we can't get even a decent internet down
Now,
there.
isn't UNHS carrying over a line over to our building?
We've been talking about that. I don't know if it's far enough along to bring up here, but what's that?
So you're looking at alternatives,
Right.
since that's.
UHS uses Frontier too.
No,
No.
No,
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought
We
you
use-
meant-
UNHS uses Emory Telecom, but they also have their own stuff as well. They put a lot of money into, but I am in talks with somebody right now within UNHS about bringing some things over. I just don't know that it's public information yet. Until it gets more real and I know more about it. to talk about.
Now, the city manager and ULCT conference, there are fiber optic entities that are interested if we feel like we get to a point just citywide where we need better internet access, where there's potential for franchise agreements and things like that to bring better internet access down this way. So
On
that's a
that,
bigger
So many
discussion for a
areas that
different
don't
time.
have the fiber optic capability.
Yeah.
Like, we're having some major issues with Frontier too, out of the nations, but do you, Becky, you've been down for 2 days. Have you looked at Bears Ears? Wired?
yeah, we've talked to them a little bit, but we're about to get a real boost with some things to the city. What I can say about it is UNHS does want to bring better internet to Centennial Park because when they used that as a vaccination clinic, basically, it was probably the best place in town to do that, where people could get in their vehicles and drive through. It was incredibly organized and they really like that, and they want to be able to use that in the future, which would scratch our backs as well by having to come by past the wellness center and help us with that. So we are talking about it. And there might be some good things.
David's hesitations, he doesn't want it to sound like UNHS is committed in a public meeting to doing that. It's just very preliminary talking and seeing what options there are.
But it is moving forward. So. But the software is great. When our internet's down, we just have a new phone system citywide as well now for city staff at all the buildings. And if we don't have internet, we have no phones either, which that used to be the case. So we need reliable internet down there in the phone center.
And then would you be able to have that as one of the amenities that people could use wireless again?
Yes.
Is that so? I know.
It is incredibly lame, and we haven't even been able to give out a guest password because it bumps us off the system by doing that because it can't handle. So we get 3 people in there on the treadmill on Wi-Fi, our system doesn't work, and it's not the system, it's the connection. So we're hoping to.
Maybe we can even look into a hotspot that can be at the rec center just for staff in case internet or something goes down, and we can just connect to that.
I think that would be maybe a good idea in the interim.
Yeah.
So for instance, the pool, the first week of the pool is just a zoo. That's when a lot of people who just buy some seasonal passes, that's when they do that. And during some of that time, during our peak times, couldn't do anything. So we had to write things down and then enter it later when we had it. It was quite frustrating. And a good provider like Emory Telecom or some of these others is the answer. So.
In the past, this is separate, this is just another question. In the past, we've had issues with staffing, lifeguards and things. Have we done better this year? Are we still struggling?
We're still training a few. You can't hire somebody who doesn't apply.
Right.
So we made a push. We talked to a lot of people, and people just, like even in our parks, we couldn't get people to fill out an application. So we had to go talk to people and ask them to fill out an application and for the job. So I don't know, people just aren't
Something going on all over the country.
It's not just us. It's true. I've talked to other people. So, but it is a problem, and we have struggled. We're good right now. Just last weekend, you probably all know, you may have got a call or something, but we were a couple hours late opening the pool on Saturday because all of the groups that were at that youth male camp, or whatever they're calling that, it was just youth camp and then girls camp at the same time. We didn't have enough staff to open the pool at all, and so it took us a few hours to get that rectified.
We might need to look at, Dave, I'm sorry, I haven't even mentioned this to you. I've been thinking about reevaluating pool staff, like lifeguards, hourly rate, because I'm hearing lots of input Kate, for example, said she's talked to some kids, she's tried to encourage to be lifeguards, and they said, well, I can make more money sitting in the snow cone shack than I can lifeguarding or parks or things like that. So part of it may be we just might need something a little more to incentivize them, but that's something we're
I
gonna
thought we raised it 2 years ago.
evaluate.
We did.
Yeah.
Again, we need to evaluate.
I'm not saying we're going to, I just say I want to look at it, I want to compare to what are some of these other jobs that are attractive to teenagers and say, are we
And you went ahead
competitive?
and opened that to kids that weren't quite 16 yet?
Yeah.
We
just
did, we
opened
did
it.
that just now, actually.
And that did
And
help.
she's training 3 right now. A couple are already certified just within the last 4 or 5 days. And so, and if we didn't have Linda, like most places don't have the luxury of having an on staff, she's not on staff, but she has bent over backwards to accommodate, to get as many people trained as possible. And without her, we'd be in a real hurt. And she's gone over and above, especially this year.
My grandson's working there, he's just loving it. I went there to take a picture of him, try to make him run in slow motion like they was. But he wouldn't do it.
You know, I don't know that any of our staff have the ability or
Well, the law
screens that
is
act as a
like
Baywatch
that.
agent. So,
I bet he did a slow motion eye roll at you though.
Stupid.
All right, any other questions for Dave?
We feel very.
Well, we just need to.
So not just that, but also some of these other projects that was approved in their budget, and then some things were brought up in the last meeting about some sprinklering. I have been told to hold off on some things. I floated out of this meeting when you guys approved the budget and we talked about a couple of things.
Yeah.
I was on
Next,
cloud 9 and then it all came crashing down.
next council meeting, Kim and I will be bringing basically a spreadsheet to you that shows you kind of a breakdown of options with funding and show you how things play out based on whether we fund everything, one thing or the other, half and half. So we'll kind of,
Next meeting.
yeah, on the July 13th is what we're shooting for. I don't see why it wouldn't be ready by then. If not, it'll at least be the last meeting in July. So
Not be addressing.
I would try and get it done that first meeting in July.
that's
So
what,
all these things are on hold because of this, and
Yeah.
I think we're in our new fiscal year very shortly, and
it's basically
some
ready.
decisions.
I
I'm
just
ready
don't
to
wanna-
spend that money, just so you know.
Kim's put some of the stuff together, so from what I understand, what she's put together is ready. But she said she's not here, I don't wanna speak for her not being here, but I'm pretty sure the
Thank you.
13th.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Oh, we finished up baseball with tournaments and stuff this weekend too. So,
This coming weekend, right?
yeah, this Saturday, and we did move one back, but all the other tournaments are happening this Saturday.
You did go to the one.
We did to the 10th. So, yeah.
There was a conflicting
Yeah, it was a
company or
group.
something.
I let all the coaches decide that, although there's some people who plan their vacations around it, but I didn't want to do a tournament with 3 teams when I could do 6, just in 2 weekends.
Tax. Let's talk 4th of July.
All righty, see what's going on. You guys will put up, Mayor and Council, please. If you have any questions with that staff report, I'd be happy to answer anything regarding those.
What time are we supposed to meet to ride in the parade? Or are we just allowed to watch the parade this year?
Hey, Logan.
He wants to know, I can get it, right?
Is that a requirement?
If you're voted by council into city council, it's.
I hope it got all night, something for, I don't know.
It is not.
I don't
All
even.
we gotta do is throw candy.
It's really fun.
You can
Yeah.
sleep.
You can lay on the floor.
So, yeah, what time do you want?
I will ask the banks, I'm guessing around 9.
Who's driving the truck?
We need a driver, so I'm working on that. So if anyone knows or a spouse,
So,
Mike might be
Mike would play
a good driver. Logan's already donated his side-by-side to the Grand Marshal, so we won't make him drive.
so here's the question though, the way that's supposed to work is we're right behind the Grand Marshals.
Correct.
And you're gonna have a PA system for me to talk about those Gold Star families and those men who gave their lives? Is that still something that
We can do that. We need to get with the mayor and look at how to power that within that older vehicle. The other possibility,
There's portable PA.
Yeah, we can.
I have one, I don't know if it would be loud.
we wanted the
enough,
people to know why those grand marshals were there, what they actually represent.
Get a battery power.
I have one, is it battery powered?
It is.
Okay.
The batteries run down.
Just-
We use it all the time, but I can charge it.
check it out first, because we
Yeah,
don't
see if
have
that
one, and I
works.
don't.
We use it at like our horse shows and things, like the rodeos that we do.
And it's loud enough there.
Ish, I guess.
You're gonna be in a relatively, I think seems to be a lot less noise up in the front of the parade. What it'll be, I think, something that can project from the front of that would be fine. I think anything that the front rows can hear, we can.
Yeah, they're not that expensive. I have one.
I'd
that I
probably
use
buy
for
one.
He's happy to get one.
No problem here. I'm sure we have money in the budget. We did get that grant, so we should.
I say let's buy one
I
because
agree.
this isn't the only event we would use it for.
Well, we can move the grant funding around so we.
Well, I mean, you used to have a PA system in our parade, and when it went away, I missed it. I think we need one.
There's those
Sometimes they're-
cool what, him and I will talk
Yeah,
about it.
I think that what he wants to do is vital.
Yeah, I do
And
that.
so let's figure out a way to make
That's
sure.
why we're.
And if you can't get one ordered, I have one. I use it primarily for music, not for talking, so.
We
The
can get
music
one.
is nice enough, but
We've got
let's get
10
one.
days still.
And
And
he's also
possible.
on is.
Are those the,
We'll pay
I
for
got one
shipping.
too. so-
Yeah.
So in your vehicle, how many seats are there?
6.
6. And we have what? How many families?
Four. Yeah, that's why I wanted his.
So, I could even sit in their vehicle,
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be nice.
you can sit in the back almost. and just
sit in the back.
There is a,
tell
so
me.
there's 6 and then there's a bed in the back too. It's like
Yeah,
a small,
we
it's like
can
a
talk
small
about
semi.
Sometimes they run
But I just think it's an important part of.
Yeah.
Do you have a side by side that keeps that in place?
So we could attach a speaker to that bed part, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I could sit in there easily.
And then I want to ask one more thing, and then I'll be quiet, let you give your
Okay.
thing. In the past, the San Juan Record has reached out to me to ask about our grand marshals. Do we need to reach out to San Juan Record to have them write something about our grand marshals?
Yeah, so two parts to this.
Okay.
Red Rock Radio will be down at the parade,
Okay.
or they'll be at the parade live broadcasting, so we can have something written up for them to read on there.
Okay.
They'll also be down at the park live broadcasting as well, so they can give different beach updates down there.
Right.
And then as well, we could do an entire article
I'd like
afterwards.
to see
or-
these families in the name of R28, mentioned in print.
Yeah, I think they'd be happy to do it, so.
And so, do you want to reach out, or do you want me to reach
Yeah,
out?
I'll reach out to them.
And just have
Since
Bill
we've already
Boyle get
started
with,
that, we can,
and just have Bill Boyle get with me, or whoever their reporter is, and,
okay,
because we're coming down pretty dang close.
yeah,
And they
I,
usually have reached out to me by now, and they haven't.
yeah, I can get something, their deadline's Friday, so we've got time, we've got 2 or 3 days still for them to get that done. If you can help with the writing and, information, I think it'll be.
Yeah,
a quick
I'll have the
turnaround for you.
information, and they can just talk to me and put that together.
Okay, they'll listen to this in the morning and hopefully call you, but I'll text them first thing in the morning as well, so.
I'll wait until they've read it.
They've been great, and they actually want to be more involved in the future, so.
Well, the things that the paper have done in the past for our marshals has been excellent, and I would just like to see that continue.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, I'll
Um,
be quiet.
we currently have 18 floats, parade, I don't know what's the word, parade
entries?
entries. That's gonna double 2 days before the event. That's typically how that works. We usually have 35-ish. So if we end up with 30, and that's me, my guess is that 12 to 13 more will sign up. We had someone back out of food booths. There's one food booth available. 2 food trucks still. All the craft booths have filled up. We've had 4 information booths filled as well. So that was well received. The change there seemed like it was appropriate and is being utilized. So other than that, the fireworks, they're good to go. The band is good to go. The sound is good to go. The stage will be there. We have 4 Corners Electric working on the electrical outlets that needed to be updated, and the grass is green. And
Do you have any kids booths?
we do. So Ashlyn Bake, who is Mark and Carrie Bake's daughter, will be handling all of the kids' activities that have. She's got roughly 8 or 9 different activities that they'll have set up there on that south-facing baseball field, where it's been repassed as well. And I believe it's with Sterling Scholars. I could be wrong, but that's who's doing it, and she's the head of that. But she'll have other volunteers there helping as well. The city assisted in purchasing some of the just little, Oriental trading giveaway type things for the kids to win. But yeah, she's done a great job, great initiative there, and a good community partner. And then just quickly, not related to the 4th of July, this is for that fall festival. The SJC PAC is actually going to be, I won't even say a sponsor, they're just going to be a full-on partner in that. They've received quite a bit of grant funding for that, and where that's such a family-oriented, get out and be together event, they felt like that's one they wanted to be part of. So where she had mentioned that previously, I want to let you know that that's moving forward, and they've actually talked to me about that, and quite a bit going into there on their end to get families together to that event, and that's part of their prevention is families being put together. So really grateful for them and all their help. So really big kudos to them. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
Anything else?
So if you'll just text us when you know when we're supposed to meet with the parade,
You're buying the
that
candy,
would be
right?
helpful.
Kim's out the candy game
Kim's always
Thursday, so you can go.
Candy is on its way.
So this is one of those things that's probably not really worth talking about, but I've been asked several times, what time will the fireworks start? And will they start before the band's done or after?
10:01.
It's supposed to stop.
I don't know why some
Fireworks
other
are
people were
supposed to
upset
go.
about that. but
That's-
that's kind of fun.
Because it seems like it started a little earlier
Yeah,
than that was going to.
Yeah,
I know.
so
Mom and
let's
Dad been waiting for 3
see.
hours, but.
Yeah, the reason, what happened last year, we actually did them on the fall festival night.
Right.
And I told the band, play till 9:50. And then that's kind of where the idea was there is like, you'll play, there's usually like an encore. I didn't want them to go till 10:05, right? I think they played like 7 actually, but it was like, it was a 10-minute gap. I said, stop, thinking it'd be kind of an encore, 5 minutes, and then they'd do things. But this year, they will stop playing at 9:59. 59 seconds. And then, yeah, literally as soon as they last drum of their
I
song.
can say we're done.
So,
I mean, last year I said, let's hear the band and the lights went off.
yeah, lights go off, I'll shut the lights off, and
And
they'll
the fireworks started.
hit the space bar on the computer and then.
Can I hit this space bar?
I'll ask.
I think we have to vote on that.
Paradise City, yeah, it's an 80s cover, 80s rock cover band.
So get your leg
Something
warmers
different.
and your leather jackets or whatever you want.
Denim jackets.
Yeah.
I was worried them kids in the eighties.
All right.
Thank you. So order a wireless mic and a handheld mic,
Yes, gotcha.
because he might want to experiment with both of those. He might want to have his hands free.
We do have one that's wired. We have a couple out there, so I'll get a battery powered Bluetooth.
Great.
One as well.
And I'll share with you how I've done this 4th of July. I've taken and asked like the Bakes, and I've asked them to do a 2-year rotation. And then they've been asked to choose their replacement.
Oh, nice.
And they chose Nikki Safford. So Nikki is working with them this year. And when the Bakes time is up, this will be their 2nd year. So Nikki next year will be in charge if we follow this. But I found that worked out well. It kept people from getting burned out. And so we're able to get a lot of community members to feel like they're a part of this thing and do a tour duty and have the replacement work within that second year. And it's a smooth transition, so that's how that works. So Nikki's been working with them.
Nikki and I will be tagging up the field with the American flag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you guys.
this was done a couple
What do you
of
need help with? Is there anything we can help with?
We're gonna set up the day before. What time was that?
I think we said Friday, 8 AM.
Yeah, we're gonna set up the bunting along with the ball field, and put those flags up and
We mark all of the
The
booths
vendor.
out.
things.
We've got a lot more booths this year, so if you've got time, it's like 30 minutes, you'll be done by 9, so.
Maybe text me.
Okay.
I'll text you if you want.
Robert will let everyone know.
Yeah.
But he wants me to text him at 4 AM.
Yeah, and I'm here at the point.
Overall, I think everyone's thrilled to death, so I think it'll be an awesome year, and the way weather's been going, it looks like it'll be a nice day. And there's always a windstorm at 2 o'clock, it kind of tries to blow someone over, and then it stops at 3, so,
Usually takes a couple of shakes.
yeah, so we'll be good to go.
Slides.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're on to discussion items, and the first item is Citizen of the Year and recognizing past elected officials. Is that you?
That was me.
That's you?
Yeah. Will you put our names on the agenda? I usually do, so maybe it just got missed.
Yeah, let's just say trying to, when we were putting in the fireworks stuff, I did several blank brain
I
farts.
got so pumped about the fireworks.
So I just wanted to have a discussion on this item. I know that,
Your name's on there.
oh, not on mine. So they probably whited mine out. So.
Mine's-
It's okay. No, it's totally fine. Anyway, I just, I was visiting with, I was seeing all the Bradford family, Lisa Carr, and the Bradford family are doing a huge presentation on the tunnel that brings water to our city, and they're doing that on the 3rd of July, and she was putting all of this information together, trying to recreate kind of some of the stuff that was at the visitor center that got removed. And I just started thinking, I read an article of some of our past council members and mayors and things that they've done in this busy year that they'd had, and everything that they set their minds to do that year that was in that newspaper article had been accomplished. And this was in the 80s, I think this was when this article came out. And I know Monticello does a Citizen of the Year award, which I love. I love when they do that big write-up in the paper about it. And so I wanted to just start to put together some ideas, and maybe that was something we could do here in Blanding. A Citizen of the Year, which is nominations that come from residents. They can nominate someone for Citizen of the Year. So just take us doing a little marketing that people know to make those nominations. And maybe that's a way to also recognize some of our past elected officials who aren't going to be with us very much longer, but and there's past elected officials that are amazing that are gone, and we've never had a chance to recognize them. And so I just wanted to start this discussion. Maybe the city could, maybe David, maybe you could help us come up with some options of if we want to recognize past city officials. I know there's a lot, and so that's not an easy thing to do, but if we wanted to share information or recognize one year or just do a Citizen of the Year, and that could maybe encompass some of those people as well.
I actually, with the discussion about parade and everything in 4th of July, maybe it'd be good to have that chosen before the 4th of July. So you would have the Grand Marshal and maybe the Citizen of the Year that are recognized.
That's a great idea.
Each year,
Yeah.
I think would be probably helpful. We can talk about, do we want to do like a little subcommittee that looks at all the nominations, or just the council want to do that subcommittee, things like that, so we can evaluate that.
You could also do a float, and Logan could write on that as it passed.
City council members.
Yeah, so anybody that's been on city council or whatever could write on a float.
Yeah,
Even if they're not-
You know he won't write on this.
We will buy him some candy. No, actually, that's a great
It's not a
idea.
bad idea, honestly.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. I mean, not for Logan, not for Logan, not for the other Logan, but
You
But
call
for,
the line
if we
and
did a, that passed, I'm, just thinking of the Harold Lyman's of the city, the Cole Bradford of the city. I mean, there's so many names, and that's the hard part, is that there really is people who have brought this city to where it is today. And and they really are gonna be gone soon. Hope, you know, we want them with us as long as we can, but if we don't take the opportunity to recognize them while they're here, then it'll have to be in heaven, I guess, but.
I wonder if that's something you could do with maybe an intern from USU that's working on history degree. That they could do the research in highlighting some of those previous officials, because I just don't see city staff being able to devote that kind of time to that.
Well, and I was thinking, I like that idea of seeing if there's any of them that would like to be on a float. I mean, that's not a bad idea. Would past elected officials like to ride on a float next year?
Instead of what?
You have
Instead of us.
you have the Salmon Historical Society, you would have all that information. I would get them involved in that. I like your idea. And I'm big into history and this, I love what you're talking about. But wouldn't it be cool too to have somewhere where you could put pictures of the mayors?
Mhm.
Right.
That would
To
be
show
really,
that
really,
history
I
of
totally
this
agree.
community.
And that's kind of what we're missing is that
Mayors, he
space.
said mayors, not elected officials.
Well, but I'm just saying, but you can do that. You can go to the school district where they have up there on the wall.
Yeah.
Well, probably what we would do is you could have on a wall, you know, the current mayor and council, so that you're on the wall, and then all the past mayors.
Yeah.
But you could even on your website have a historic link to show all former
Yeah.
councils and,
But again, like, I'm really hesitant to ask anyone on staff to do that, because they're already still working.
I'm saying maybe the Salmon Historical
But
Commission already has it.
yeah, if we could find,
I'm on, or I will be on that shortly here.
Good.
But that could be a project.
There you
maybe.
go.
But I think the citizen of the year is something that we could do very,
Yeah, I think that's
very
easy.
easily.
Yeah,
A
something
nice
tiny,
way.
something
It kind
wonderful.
of helps with some of our community engagement that we saw. That some of that was a little higher, some of that was a little lower than I expected, but you know, things like that help with that. You know, I
And you
think.
could do this, maybe get fall festival, and so you don't have everything at 4th of July.
Yeah.
Spring things
Well,
up.
that's true, yeah, you could do that.
No, I think you would do
cool,
So if everybody likes, I don't think it takes a vote of any kind. If everybody likes the idea, let's come up with a plan for citizen of the year. Unless you guys have other names or
it.
ideas.
Good plan.
Sounds good. Thank you.
all right, let's go to business items, resolution 6-22-2021-1, the adoption of the certified tax rate. Pretty straightforward, but.
Yeah, so unless there's any questions, I think we can just. Let's run them.
Goes down, what's the,
Goes down because the values have gone up. So that we're not collecting any more taxes than we have.
It's kind
Oh,
of
yeah, I remember
equilibrium. There is a slight caveat to that Kim did want to mention is while they do bring it down, we actually still probably will see some little bit of increase.
right, because you do get more things going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember
Because
this
of
conversation.
the new taxing entity for the new.
Right, yeah.
I will motion that we,
Adopt
I'm not
resolution.
on the right page, but adopt resolution
Right there.
6-22-2021-1, the certified tax.
That's Monson and Turk. All in favor?
Aye. Do you need any discussion on that? You understand? You got it? Because it took me like a whole year.
Yeah, it took me a minute to get it to, but I remember talking about it there.
Because we adopt the certified tax rate, we just collect the same amount every year, so values go up, the tax rate goes down. But they're still paying the same amount because the value of their home.
And they're still getting the growth, so.
And growth will increase that, the taxes that we do receive from that growth as well. Anyway, there's other ways to do it that we've discussed in the past.
All right, Brett, let's talk AWAS construction.
Mayor and council, we've talked about this a few times. The money's gone up and down. We think we've got it back down revised. We're waiting for the final contract from the FFA to be awarded, the grant award to be awarded.
FAA.
FAA. And the mayor will need to sign that grant award so we can award the contract.
And that'll pay for the whole thing.
100%.
but we're just paying the ongoing maintenance costs and.
At this point, we need to look at it as if we're gonna be paying approximately $6,000 a year plus utilities to take care of, maintain the AWAS.
So we're being a little bit preemptive or proactive here right now, and basically you're getting, you're hoping to say, yes, please move forward with that when you get the funding assumption.
And you have all the numbers there, you can see where we're at as far as the numbers go. They've got those, and so if they award that grant, we'll have the money and we can proceed with that AWAS project. The mayor will just have to sign that award.
What was the current cost maintenance? The one you have now is already.
We don't have one, the state of Utah has it. We get blamed for it when it doesn't work. But,
Yeah. You're like, oh, I remember now.
but it's about that same amount, so if they don't do the COVID thing on us in Saucus, it should stay around $5,000 or $6,000 a year. But we're also hoping that if they don't have too big of a fee, we can get rid of that expense and we'll go to the FAA as well.
So are we just saying advice and consent, or do we need a motion?
I would think it'd probably be better for
For
more.
motion, I agree to move forward with the
Move forward with
contract.
this bid.
To award the contract when the grant becomes available for the mayor to sign it, proceed.
I will make a motion that we move forward with the Armstrong.
So that's the consulting.
Yeah, the airport consultant, it'll be,
Mesquite Electric.
Oh,
yeah,
Mesquite
Mesquite Electric
Mesquite Electric
bid.
bid for the AWAS system at the airport in the amount of $338,210 that will happen if the FAA awards the grant for
Correct.
those funds.
Yep, very good.
Where'd you get
But I think
that
that,
number? Where'd you get that
I
number
think
from?
it's 338.
Page 22.
338,210,
Yeah.
sorry, 338,210.
And what's
As
this,
long as the FAA awards the grant to pay 100% of those funds.
what's the 342,570 then?
That was the original
That was the
engineering estimate.
Oh, okay.
So it's way above,
Gotcha.
way above.
I will second that.
All right, that's Bowers and Monson. Any other questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
that's good stuff.
Thank you, good work, that's exciting, that's huge.
That's a big step for the airport.
We don't fully understand how big important that is.
Let's talk fireworks restrictions. But first, I just want to say, you guys have already been really busy, which we know you would this year, but you make the city proud.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
thank you.
So thanks for that.
Appreciate that. So fireworks.
Restriction.
Yes. So I guess it's under my authority to be able to ban the personal aerial fireworks for the
Flying safe.
for Blanding City. And I don't know, it's been a lot of topic of conversation because there's a lot of things that, yeah, this year I would love to ban every personal firework because of, we've always been in a drought situation, and we've always just allowed them, and we've been pretty lucky. Like last year we had 3 fires from personal fireworks. And so some of them were big and they moved fast, and we were stuck down at the fireworks show trying to get out. And, but this year I felt it was we're in a lot more dire drought situations. For one, the vegetation, we didn't have a lot of new growth in our plants or weeds, but the stuff we had from last year is now dried and really good kindling. And the temperatures we've had reduces the ignition temperature that it needs to start. So if your weeds are already at 110 degrees on the ground, and there's, we're running with like a 6% humidity, it's going to take a lot less to get that to ignite than in past years. So that's one reason that I banned the any aerial Class C dangerous fireworks.
And why didn't you just ban all of them?
So
That will be a
Because
question.
because we can't.
well, you can, that's why the resolution is here for you. It's up to the legislative body, so there's the Class C dangerous, which is the aerial. And then there's the Class C common, which is just like, you know, the butterflies, the fountains. And it's under your authority to be able to restrict those. And so the resolution here is just giving general authority to say, we are delegating authority for this year to the fire chief so that if he feels there becomes a need to restrict those, he can. So then we don't have to call a special session or any of that. He can just do it. We can put together a new letter. So right now, his letter, the resolution would give him that delegatory authority. The letter that he's doing is only going to restrict aerials, but not common. But if, say, in a week from now, it's like, no, we need to restrict common, we can just type up a new letter and issue that out.
So there was another clause with that though. Right. You can't ban them, like no fireworks whatsoever. The only thing we can do as a municipality is designate areas in town
Where it's
that
allowed.
are not allowed and areas in town that are, and I have to have a map, and I don't know if it's too late to do it, but you have to give the state fire marshal's office a map of the areas that are allowed to light fireworks off.
So if it's too late, then is this even any good?
No, it's not too late for the aerials. You can do aerials across,
Yes.
but
I think that, so you have Class C, rather than, so I'm just gonna call them what the code calls them. You have Class C dangerous, which is listed in your ordinance, bottle rockets, that sort of thing, the mortars, and then you have Class C common. Class C dangerous, as the fire chief, not the legislative body. The legislative body doesn't need to delegate any authority to the chief for that. The chief has absolute authority anytime, any year, any whatever, to say, not this year, we're not having aerials because of the situation. Okay, so that's not an issue that's before you, other than to show you the letter and let you see that that's what the chief has decided to do with Class C dangerous. Class C common are your more regular fireworks that you get and that you do out in the street in front of your house. I think that I feel pretty comfortable that if the chief within the next, probably by the end of the week, for sure, if he drives around and gets to feeling, now next week may be a different story, but I'm pretty confident that by the end of this week, he would still be allowed to say, look, there are certain places like, 300 west between 4th North and 7th North or whatever else, that he has to explain where those areas are at that they're not allowed, and he's the person to do it. But that authority typically goes down to the legislative body. And so the thing that we talked about, the reason that there's this resolution is we talked about, the chief's actually probably the one that's in the best position to do that. And so unless you wanted to have a 4-hour conversation tonight about all the areas in town that the chief was concerned about and hash those out and come up with a plan, it made a little bit more sense to just delegate for the 1-year period that authority to the chief to make those decisions, because he's the expert on it anyway.
and then we can, if he in the next week, if he identifies it, between Pratt and I, or we could put up a map together. If he just tells us the area of the streets, and I've done this before with past cities, put together, you submit it, they approve it, you just put it out publicly.
Is that something you're comfortable with? Like, are you good? Do you feel comfortable with this?
Well, I haven't felt uncomfortable about letting people do, the fountains and basically anything that doesn't leave the ground more than 6 feet in the air, because most of the time your families are standing out there and it's, might start a little fire right here. And most people can take care of that. And so that doesn't concern me quite as bad as the aerials that get up into different airstreams and float over to the neighbor's field. And the 3 fires we had last year were caused by the aerials.
Okay.
Some of them tipped over and just shot like rockets and started multiple things on fire. And, some went into a vacant field and burned that, so
The resolution is more cautionary in case he needs that authority to quickly implement it, it's there. But right now, the letter is just restricting aerials. It's probably better to say restrict rather than ban, so there's not confusion. We're restricting aerials in the city, but allowing for common fireworks such as fountains, and we'll be sure to put that information out.
Do you know what the county is doing?
Zero.
So that's the issue that I have with us making the decision to ban fireworks, is they're gonna drag down to the outside city limits and light up the fireworks anyway, and then you have to.
No,
they're not allowed.
Oh, okay.
They're
Complete
completely
restriction, there's
Oh,
no.
sorry, that's what, okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were doing nothing.
No, no,
This
So my
isn't gonna do us
question-
any good.
My question is, when you do this, does that stop people from selling them?
No,
They can
he can
still
still
sell
sell it
it.
unless the city revokes their.
Okay, so he can still make money selling them.
Well, he
They just
can't,
can't buy
but
them.
who's gonna buy them if you can't shoot them off?
Yeah, and I can't remember who it was, he mentioned it too, but he said, if I can't sell aerials, I'm probably not even gonna open it up.
But we haven't said you can't.
So I talked to him and he says that he might not have the trailer down there selling them, he says, but his boss said he will. He's like, I'll still go down and sell them. So it's just, yeah, so, you know, what, that'll be a fight and, you know, you can restrict his business license.
Well, I hope they're doing
We've got
it.
one more comment.
So, to your question, Cheryl, the other thing that comes into play with the county is the county has actually very, very limited authority because state land, so Sitla land, is covered by the state fire marshal, or state forester. And then BLM is covered by the BLM. Forest Service is covered by the Forest Service. So when you take those all out of circulation, you're dealing with just the private property. And so that does play a part in it as well. And those entities have all restricted. All fireworks actually, on there. So they can't do that.
And the exploding targets, all that stuff is banned.
And we can put that in whatever post or information is, here's what the restrictions are in the city, and FYI, everything is banned out of the city, just so they know you can't just go out of city limits.
A couple things that I question maybe or have thought about is how do you enforce this? Like if we're gonna say that like we're not doing it, but then we don't enforce it, what good does that
It's
actually do?
mostly education, and that's why in the letter it says if the fire started, you're responsible for any and all costs. And we're gonna encourage people, so last year there wasn't a city fireworks show, let's everybody else kind of do your own fireworks. This year we're gonna say, hey, because of the drought season, the high fire risk, everybody please come to the city fireworks show. We can finally get together, don't do your own. Really it's education, trying to preempt a lot of it, but you can't.
So there's no way to police it.
Also, just from a legal perspective, if they're restricted or banned for the year, and you start a fire and you destroy someone's barn or their house or whatever else, it makes the victim, it makes it easier for them to actually take action and actually get somewhere. So while enforcement the night of may not be, isn't going to be possible, quite frankly, with how small your police department is. Like, it's just not possible.
It's the retroactive.
It's the fact that if you are victimized by something of yours burning down, it would make it easier for you to be able to collect and be made whole through the court process.
As well as the city, to pass on the costs of putting those fires
Of
out.
fighting the fires.
Because we restricted it, and now we can pass the cost on to them because it was clearly determined that they were restricted.
So that's really where it goes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does.
Okay.
My other one is us picking areas where you might be able to do fireworks versus not being able to do them. How do you do that again?
It's pretty easy.
There's other, I mean, like the thing that I struggle with, that like especially like in a small town with something that we're at, it's going to come down to the thing of, well, we live here, we don't live in this neighborhood where they have a nice yard and they have this, but because we live down here, we don't get to do them.
Usually what, at least in my experience in the past, because I've been fire PIO, is you restrict usually streets that are next to open land, or large empty lots. And you also say you can't, that's the other thing we need to message is you can't go to the city park and start doing fireworks in the city park or public spaces. And so you restrict those that are on the outskirts to open land and large open lots. And then people know, okay, well, I need to get together at my friend's house who's more in town, not next to these things. I mean, people just naturally, you still have people upset, but they naturally will congregate in the areas that are
I
allowed.
watched the thing on the news where the mayor of Baker, they were asking him, and he said exact same things. This is where they can do it, this is why, and this is where you can't.
And that's all he can do.
And it's sort of the same, both.
Yeah. The other thing to remember is if the chief decides to go that route, if you delegate that authority to him and he decides that there are areas that, then the code actually spells out pretty clearly, actually. It's if it's in an environmentally dangerous situation, which leave it to the Utah legislature to make something so, specific and vague at the same time. But then there's like 10 or 12 bullets underneath that of things that he would want to consider, like the type of terrain, the type of, and so it's not as left up to, it's not as wide open or subjective as it sounds. It's actually pretty specific as to the types of areas that he can or can't, which would be the same if it was you all making that decision.
Yeah.
So it's not subjective, kind of, I guess, but they do have some pretty specific parameters around it as well.
I would just say, I absolutely want our city to be safe, there's no question about that, and I, would like to be able to do those basic fireworks if we can. I think that is a staple of the 4th of July, but I would trust you to make the best decision that you can in this case, and I think you should have that authority. But I think if we could allow it, let's allow it. If we can't,
It's always been my thing, the aerials, just.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah. I mean,
What I do with my grandkids is usually those fountains,
Yeah,
black
yeah.
cats.
And you stick them on the curb and you do it, and we haven't had any big issues with people in their lots. They usually, and we can specify maybe in the same letter, have your garden hose right there, charged, ready to go.
Yeah.
So what we can do is tomorrow we'll put out the letter that's in front of you, we'll put out that letter, and in the post, we'll probably put a little more educational information. But typically, if you put out a series of posts leading up to, then it just ingrains a little more in people's minds with a couple more, tips of, if you're gonna do fountains, do this. Make sure you don't do this. So I think, Cheryl, to your point is, we're trying to say, here's what you can do.
Right.
We don't want to take it away from you, but
Yeah.
we need everybody to be conscientious of what environment we live in right now.
And if we do need to take it away, here's why, and here's where you can't, but here's where you can.
The letters.
So if this resolution passes, because that's the next thing I'm looking for is for a motion on that. I also think it would be helpful for it to be attached to the 4th of July information, because that's where people are gonna look for it.
Sure.
That's where they're
great.
gonna wanna know, like, am I allowed to still do
Yeah.
fireworks?
On that same page, we could have a tile that says firework restrictions or.
Is there a schedule that gets put out in the paper? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it comes out that Wednesday and Thursday.
That'd be a good place to,
It can,
It's too late.
it's a space.
oh, okay.
If it's this big,
Well, this could go in the paper.
it might be. I can send them that and see if they can just put it in.
Well, you know what, just when we find out, they might even, yeah, they might even,
They'll do
in
their
their
own story.
article about the meeting, they'll probably
Hey.
highlight this.
Also,
I'll make the
Monticello did this
that
exact
we
same thing.
accept resolution 6.
They are.
They already did that. It was I heard from their city attorney that they were about 45 minutes ahead of you guys, getting to it on their agenda. And they've already passed it. So I would guess that if Pratt or someone were to send that to them, I would guess the paper will cover it because both cities.
They're allowing the non-explosive fireworks as well.
I think they're deferring it also to their.
So I'll go ahead then and make the resolution, our motion that we accept resolution 622, 2021-2, the fireworks restriction, and give that for resolution.
That's Turk and Nelson. Any other discussion? All in favor? Oh.
No, sorry, we'll put it in the utility bills
Okay,
as well,
perfect.
so it'll get out in various spots.
And just to verify, we're giving you this authority through
The end.
the end of 2021, so you have it for the 24th as well.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. All right, we do not have a reason for closed session tonight, so I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion and Tarek, all in favor? Aye.
Yeah, motion and turn.
Motion, I say motion.
Second that motion.
Yeah.